Good morning, everyone, or maybe it's nighttime when you're watching this. We are in week 2 of our class, 7005, and we are in chapter 5, Building Blocks of Communication. It's conveying empathy and authenticity. So, here are some key points that I want you to take away from this chapter. There's a lot in the book about empathy, and there's some really helpful affective words that you can use. So, take a look and see what kind of fits within your style of communication. We don't just want to go textbook or this was a suggestion, so therefore I should use it. We want to be able to communicate with our clients in a way that still feels true to who we are, okay? So, some big ideas here. Feeling empathy is not necessarily enough. Clients have to experience it. Okay, so it's one thing for us to feel empathy towards a client, but they also have to feel the empathy that we are feeling for them. Okay. Number one, empathy is not the same as sympathy. Okay. So empathy communicates not just that you maybe feel a certain way towards the client or that the client is being heard by you, but you're conveying that you are trying to understand the client's experience from where they are sitting. So you're really trying to understand where they're coming from, because that is really where we get to a high point of empathy when we're working with a client. Next, we want to listen for feelings and the meaning of the feeling. Okay. So, for example, maybe a client is talking about a relationship, a negative relationship they have with their daughter, or maybe lack of communication with a daughter. And the client says something like, my daughter hasn't called me in 3 weeks, right? So, the surface content is daughter hasn't called. Okay. But there are a lot of possible underlying feelings and meanings related to that statement. So, feelings around rejection, grief, anger, maybe fear or loneliness. So, we don't just want to listen to the feeling, but we want to start to kind of think about, well, what does that mean exactly for this client? And they can help you to understand what that means as well when we prompt them with the right kinds of questions. Number three, empathetic responding requires accuracy. So we don't want to overstate what the client is feeling. So instead of saying something like, you're devastated, like, yeah, of course, right? Try something like, it sounds like you're really hurt by this. Okay. And that does a couple of things for us. Number one, it opens the door for the client to explore further, to respond back. If we say just you're devastated, they're going to say, yeah, but if we say it sounds like you're really hurt by this, they're going to say, I am hurt by this. And because, or this has happened before. So you're not just putting a label on it, but you're maybe kind of exploring deeper, and showing the client too, that you are recognizing how they're feeling. Okay. So anyone can put a label on something a client says, but to recognize exactly what that means and to do it with accuracy is a very important skill when we're working with our clients. It also assesses for understanding, okay, right? So in saying, it sounds like you're really hurt by this, the client may actually not be, or maybe they're more angry instead of hurt, sad, devastated. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they're resentful. Maybe there's a relief behind it for whatever reason. So we really want to kind of gauge, by asking these kinds of open questions or statements related to empathy, to assess for, are we accurate in understanding exactly what that client is feeling, if that makes sense. Next, authenticity matters. So, clients, I think, often recognize when something is scripted by a therapist. Saying something that must be really hard, can come across as scripted, or saying the same kinds of statements over and over without feeling or emotion behind it. It seems scripted, it's not very authentic. So I encourage you to develop your own professional helping style that still sounds like you, right? So being authentic and true to yourself. So at the beginning of this video, I mentioned a lot of the some helping words that were in this chapter. Very helpful words. Find the ones that, like, words that you say. Think about how you help a friend. How do you respond when a friend is sad or when a friend is feeling frustrated or angry. So we always want to still be true to us when we're responding to a client. That's going to make our interactions with the client seem most authentic. Next, and this is a really challenging skill, but silence can be really therapeutic. So, when I'm working with new social work students, and even when I was a new social worker or social work student, new clinicians, I think, often rush to fill a silence because silence is extremely uncomfortable for us. It's uncomfortable for anybody, right? You're out on a new date and it's quiet, like it can be a little awkward. What do I say? What do I do? You're thinking in your head. But sometimes in therapy, the most helpful thing is to allow the client space to think and feel. And that involves you sitting back, showing a comfortable demeanor, body language, and just letting the client be, giving them room to think, giving them room to process. All of that is really important in the therapeutic working relationship. In a session, we don't want to feel rushed. We don't want the client to feel rushed. We want to give them the space to really kind of process their feelings and emotions. And sometimes people need a minute to do that. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, there's two suggestions I always give my students. Number one, you can say, I'm going to give you a minute or so to just process that. Like just sit with that for a minute and give them space. So you're kind of telling them up front like it's okay to be quiet for a minute. Take a second, process. Like we don't have to rush through this conversation. And number two, another helpful tip, because we do want to always rush to an answer or find words to fill this empty gap, count to 10 in your head. Okay, just chill, count to 10. Oftentimes the client's going to start to talk. They're going to fill that silence with important information that you then want to capture. But sometimes if we jump in too quickly, the client could maybe stop in that moment of where they were getting ready to share something important, and then we've moved on and the moment has passed. So give them the space to think and process and share. Oftentimes they're going to. Okay. What else do I want to share? Here's another example of a good response or a poor response, maybe, and an improved response when we're working with the client. So let's say a client says something like, I don't even know why I'm here. Nothing's going to change. Okay. So our initial reaction might be to say, don't say that. Things are going to get better. Well, we want to give them the space to say whatever it is they want to say. And we're never going to promise that things are going to get better because although we always want to be a source of hope for our clients, we don't know if things are going to get better. So, a better, more appropriate, or more empathetic response might be something like, it sounds like you've been dealing with this for a really long time. And so, it is hard to imagine that anything might be different. And that's totally normal. Okay. One thing to remember, y'all, before a client hears our intervention, they have to feel heard. We have to build the relationship.